Welcome to EnglishPass Podcast, brought to you from our local studio in Calgary. I'm your host, Samantha, and today we're diving into an exciting topic: expressing gratitude. Whether you're a beginner or intermediate learner, in this podcast, we're helping you level up your English listening and reading skills. And before we get started, let me tell you that the sponsor of this episode is TypeFit, keyboard typing practice and learning service. Today, we're exploring something really interesting: expressing gratitude. This is a remarkable subject for English learners because it covers a lot of practical vocabulary and real-world situations. So let's dive right in. Gratitude is much more than a simple social grace or a polite word spoken after receiving a gift. At its most fundamental level, gratitude is a deep emotional state and a powerful cognitive practice that involves recognizing the good things in one's life and acknowledging that the source of that goodness often lies outside of oneself. It is often described as a social glue because it bonds individuals together and creates a sense of mutual respect and kindness within a community. When we express gratitude, we are performing a two-part process. First, we affirm that there is something good in our world. Second, we recognize that other people, or perhaps even nature or a higher power, have given us certain gifts to help us achieve this goodness. This definition highlights that gratitude is inherently social. It connects us to others and helps us see that we are not alone in our journey through life. One of the most important things for an English learner to understand is the difference between being polite and being truly grateful. Politeness is a social expectation, a set of rules we follow to keep society running smoothly. Gratitude, however, requires sincerity. Sincerity is a key vocabulary word here, meaning the quality of being honest, genuine, and free from pretense. When you say thank you because it is expected, you are being polite. When you say thank you because you truly feel the weight of someone's kindness, you are practicing sincerity. Think about a time when a friend helped you move to a new apartment. They spent their whole Saturday lifting heavy boxes and climbing stairs. When you offer them a cold drink and say thank you, that is sincerity. You are acknowledging their sacrifice of time and energy. To understand how gratitude works in the real world, let us look at some concrete examples. Consider the simple act of returning a borrowed item. Imagine you borrowed a lawnmower from your neighbor. When you return it, you might notice that the fuel tank is empty. A grateful person wouldn't just drop the lawnmower off at the fence. They might fill the tank with gas and leave a small, handwritten note saying, "I really appreciate you letting me use this. It saved me so much time." This is a perfect example of reciprocity. Reciprocity is the practice of exchanging things with others for mutual benefit. By adding that extra bit of effort, you are strengthening the relationship and ensuring that the neighbor feels valued. Another common real-world example is found in the professional environment. In a busy office, it is easy to forget that people are doing more than just their jobs. If a colleague stays late to help you finish a presentation that you were struggling with, a simple email the next morning can make a massive difference. By saying, "I noticed how much extra work you put in yesterday, and I want you to know it didn't go unnoticed," you are providing acknowledgement. Acknowledgement means the act of showing that you have noticed or recognized something. This small gesture can prevent a coworker from feeling burned out or ignored, and it often leads to a more collaborative and happy workplace. Historically, humans have always recognized the importance of this emotion. The famous Roman philosopher Cicero once stated that gratitude was not only the greatest of virtues, but also the mother of all the other virtues. He believed that if a person could master being thankful, they would naturally become more courageous, patient, and kind. In many ancient cultures, gratitude was tied to the idea of a harvest. People would hold massive festivals to thank the earth and the heavens for providing food for the winter. This cultural history shows us that gratitude is not a modern invention of self-help books, but a foundational part of human survival. In modern times, scientists have started to study the brain to see what happens when we feel thankful. They have discovered something called neuroplasticity. This is a scientific term that describes the brain's ability to reorganize itself by forming new neural connections throughout life. When we regularly practice gratitude, we actually train our brains to look for the positive instead of focusing on the negative. This releases chemicals like dopamine and serotonin, which are known as the feel-good hormones. Over time, a person who chooses to be grateful can actually change the physical structure of their brain to become a more naturally happy person. It is almost like a muscle that you can exercise. However, there is a common misconception that gratitude is only for the big, life-changing moments. People often wait for a promotion, a wedding, or a big win to feel thankful. In reality, the most effective form of gratitude is found in the small, everyday details. This is often called mindfulness. Mindfulness is the quality of being conscious or aware of something in the present moment. For example, you might be walking through a park on a Tuesday afternoon and suddenly notice the way the light hits the leaves. Taking 5 seconds to think, "I am lucky to be able to see this beauty," is a powerful act of gratitude. It doesn't require an audience or a thank you card. It only requires your own internal awareness. Culturally, the way we express these feelings can vary greatly. In some Western cultures, like the United States or the United Kingdom, expressing gratitude is often very verbal and direct. People say thank you constantly, even for very small things like a waiter refilling a water glass. In other cultures, such as Japan, gratitude is often shown through actions and specific types of gift giving. There is a concept in Japan called omotenashi, which is a wholehearted way of looking after guests. Sometimes, in these cultures, people might even use words that translate to "I'm sorry" to express their thanks. They are saying, "I'm sorry that you went to so much trouble for me." This nuance, or subtle difference, shows that while the feeling of gratitude is universal, the language we use to describe it can be very different. Another interesting area to explore is gratitude during difficult times. You might wonder, how can I be grateful when things are going wrong? This is where the concept of resilience comes in. Resilience is the capacity to recover quickly from difficulties or toughness. Grateful people are not people who ignore their problems. Instead, they are people who look for the silver lining while they are dealing with those problems. For example, someone who is recovering from a major surgery might feel frustrated that they cannot walk yet. However, they can choose to express gratitude for the nurses who are caring for them or the technology that made the surgery possible. This doesn't make the pain go away, but it changes their perspective. Perspective is a particular attitude toward or way of regarding something. By shifting your perspective, you can find the strength to keep going. Let's look at a few more real-world examples to round out our understanding. Think about a teacher you had many years ago. Perhaps they were the person who first made you feel confident in your English skills. Sending that teacher an email 10 years later to say, "I still remember your class and it changed my life," is an act of profound gratitude. It requires no cost to you, but it provides an immense sense of value to the teacher. This is a form of altruism. Altruism is the disinterested and selfless concern for the well-being of others. When you give thanks without expecting anything back, you are practicing the highest form of this virtue. What about the people we see every day but often ignore? The bus driver who gets us to work safely, the person who cleans the office, or the security guard at the gate. Expressing gratitude to these individuals is a way of recognizing their humanity. A simple, "I hope you have a great day, thank you for what you do," can change the entire mood of someone's shift. We often forget that many people feel invisible in their jobs. Gratitude makes them visible again. Finally, we should consider the practice of a gratitude journal. This is a popular tool where a person writes down 3 things they are thankful for every single night before they go to sleep. At first, it might feel difficult. You might think, nothing special happened today. But as you continue the habit, you start to notice things. You might write down that the coffee was hot, or that a stranger held the door open, or that you finished a book you liked. This practice builds a bridge between your internal thoughts and your external reality. It forces you to look for the good, even on the bad days. In summary, expressing gratitude is a skill that combines language, emotion, and social awareness. It involves moving from the basic social rules of politeness toward a more sincere state of appreciation. Whether it is through a formal letter, a small gesture of reciprocity, or a silent moment of mindfulness, gratitude has the power to improve our health, strengthen our relationships, and change how we see the world. By understanding the vocabulary of thanks, words like sincerity, acknowledgement, resilience, and perspective, we can better navigate our interactions with others. It is a journey that starts with noticing the world around us and ends with a more connected and meaningful life, transforming not only the world around us, but the very fabric of our own minds. And that's all for today's episode of EnglishPass Podcast. I hope you found this helpful. Remember to practice what you've learned, and don't be afraid to make mistakes. That's how we improve. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe and join us next time. Let me remind you that the sponsor of the episode is TypeFit, and I suggest to check the link at the description. I'm Samantha, and I'm excited to be your host for many more fascinating episodes to come. Until then, keep learning and keep growing. Goodbye.